Hey guys, what's going on? Today I have a slightly different video for myself, slightly uncharted territory, but it's a breakdown kind of how I went about scoring to picture for the first time. Now, this was an interesting challenge. It was difficult, something I've really wanted to do, and after getting the Musio sample library a couple weeks ago, I got an email from them saying, hey, we've got a score a scene challenge. I thought, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to get involved and just start scoring to picture, because I've never done it before and I really wanted to. So I took a look at some of the scenes that they had. Eventually I landed on the Force Awakens because it was familiar, but also challenging because it's John Williams. So in today's video, I kind of wanted to break that down, show you my process and how I went about scoring to picture, and at the end I'll show you the full scene and the result. So with that in mind, let's get into the video. So I guess to start off with, you get the scene and you're kind of looking at the video. You just watch it through a couple times and you're listening to the dialogue, you're listening to the sounds, and you kind of think, okay, what do I do? Where do I go from here? So we start off, we get up an instance of Musio. I put two pianos together because just one didn't sound quite good enough for whatever reason. But I just start with a piano sketch, simple piano sketch, and I might be this up a bit bigger. You can see here on the MIDI editor, being a bit finicky, on the MIDI editor here, that, I'm just playing around with some ideas. I've got a little melody here, bum 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 bum, and then above it, I'm trying to hit that Star Wars sense with kind of those stabs coming in, mixing sort of melody with ambience, with kind of, in a way, it's just sort of noise. And then moving up, you can see it's rising here, and it kind of goes majory into a sort of melodic tone near the second half. Then it calms down, and I just wanted to reintroduce the first theme that I had with a new chord as a sort of punch to highlight that moment in the scene, and then just a rising outro. And when I first did it, I really liked this piano sketch. Piano sketch felt really nice to me. It felt like it was hitting those things of character, emotion, and story. Of course, when you start orchestrating, it gets a bit more complicated. So, from there, I was really happy with that. So I thought, okay, you know what, I will at first start with this. Let's start with the first section, try and go around about here, and let's start with, we need something to introduce it. So I knew where I wanted the melody to come in, but that wasn't exactly where the scene started. There was a few seconds of footage before that, kind of leading into that, and I knew what I wanted was this sort of stabbing, like bom 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 bom. And so here, I went down to the cellos, I added, and the bass, and I added this. So if we get this bass up, you can just see I'm using here the spiccato cine strings core, and I added that, and unfortunately it's just not strong enough by itself. And this is the case with, as I now know, a lot of orchestral music. A lot of it is about doubling, especially in the cello and bass, to make things more powerful. So, I went over to this cello, got this into another cello, spiccato, bring this up. I mean, it's cello, so actually we've got multiple players playing at the same time there, even more powerful. And, here's this bom, 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 bom down here. I really wanted that to come through. And then I just had a little run going above it because, again, this was a point of tension. So I'm trying to, make it seem, let's close this. This was a point of tension. So we're really trying to have some sort of fast movement. If everything was slow, we might eventually feel that build up. But right now we just want something pulsing. He's moving, he's getting up, he's clearly in distress, he knocks into someone. We want everything kind of moving. It's a very erratic. And so after a little while, we get that introduction to the first theme. I decided to play it on the oboe, the melody here. And the problem was that it just was not strong enough by itself. the oboe. And again, here's that doubling coming into effect. I go down. Sorry. I wanted to double up the oboe because it just needed to essentially just widen out and fill out the sound space, especially because there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue here. So we're really using that melody to kind of drive the scene at this point. So I doubled it up with some trumpets here. You can see I loaded an instance of trumpet ensemble. I went for the staccatissimo, which is like staccato, so very short, you know, da, 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 but even more so. It's very sharp. Again, layered that up. When I do the next bit, so we have those two empty, just the trumpet and the oboe playing that melody. But when that da, 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 the stabbing comes in, I added this trombone ensemble again, staccatissimo, very strong, very sharp, and it just widens the whole sound and fills it out and makes it seem bigger and bolder, because you want a lot of dynamics in this. So that was kind of, essentially that's pretty much all there. I mean, we added a piccolo here just as a little bit of noise, but it also introduces some dissonance. So, you know, I kind of got all of that together, moved on to the second section because I knew now that that instrumentation was working for me. We added a little gliss on the harp, so it's just one of those like John Williams loves to use in his scores. It took me ages to figure out what it was, and harmonic minor. Wow, that did wonders for me. So as we moved on, I could tell that this sort of section up here was not really working, and especially as we moved on, this melody that I had sketched out just was not working. It was too busy, just distracting from the characters, distracting from the story. I would argue it probably did hit the emotion, but because it wasn't interacting with those other things very well, we need to change it. We need to change it. It needs to go. Don't be afraid to get rid of your idea. As I've discovered, things have got to change. They got to go. And so I just played around with some ideas. And what came to me really was to just do some risers to hit the moments of dialogue, and then cut out and reintroduce the Star Wars theme. That dun, 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 dun. That was a bit low for me. Down here we can see, if I open up this bass trombone, I do it legato, very smooth silky movement across it. That's doubled in the bass, so not only are we getting that bass for power, we're also getting the texture of the trombone, really making it super smooth, because it's played so low, because trombones can be quite sharp and very, I don't know how you would say, scratchy in a way when they're played loudly, but if you play them softly, it's a very warm sound. And that's what I wanted, because it's just about underscoring the dialogue. We're not trying to do anything fancy. We're just trying to get the emotion and the story across, with the characters being able to develop in that moment. And then what you'll see here, if I move here, let's change this because we've got the expression mapping up, not what we want. That's violin. Now, these violin parts are just like single lines, and all they're doing, doubled in the viola here and the cello. We can even see that we've added some tremolo cellos. So not only do we have the legato in another instance, we're also using tremolo here, and that just helps add a bit of texture. Essentially what these are doing is just rising up. We move over to the controllers. You can see I've played with the mod, but you see this rising curve. That's on basically all of these. Again, with the expression as well. You can see it's lower and then it rises at the same time. Now, all those are doing really are just... it's like a slow and up to quick build in the way that the virtual player is playing. So I'm kind of playing the instrument for them. And it's all about really wide dynamics, especially in film scoring. You know, have you ever been to a movie and all of a sudden you can hear this like tiny violin somewhere in you know the cinema space, and then all of a sudden the orchestra comes in and it's huge and it's the loudest thing you've ever heard. You know, dynamics like that are really present in filmmaking. Not so present when you're making just regular music, in the sense of, you know, songs, I guess. The dynamics are much more controlled, but here you really want to ride those dynamics because that's how a real player would play. and that kind of adds realism to what you're making. So like I was saying, you know, I got rid of this, just did that theme, rose up to another build, used these trills here. Now the trills were interesting because I wanted to use them, it's like a I really wanted to use them to emphasize. So there's no, you can do a trill, which is literally two notes being played back and forth. I'm using the tone trill to kind of describe more of a arpeggio, kind of going up quickly. As you can see here, just like, now they were over a piece of crucial dialogue, and I wanted them to emphasize that crucial piece of dialogue. However, upon review of showing a couple people, always show people your work before you release it, very important. They won't tell you when you've done something wrong. They were just saying, you know, I can't hear that piece of dialogue, and it seems crucial, and they were right, it was crucial, and the whole point was to emphasize it. And if you're not emphasizing it, then you're ruining it. Then if you're just destroying the ability of the listener to hear it, it's got to go. In this case, it didn't have to go, it just had to be moved. So all I did was take these, you know, we can get all three of them up. You see, this is now all of those three instruments playing them. I believe we've got let's close this actually. I believe we've got the flute, the piccolo, and the clarinet all playing that same thing, just for a bit of depth. It just had to be moved along very, very slightly, and it barely even affected any of the other things because it still worked timing-wise, which is just great. It meant I didn't have to completely destroy everything once again and start from scratch. You know, then I had the idea at the end, because the scene starts to almost build up again after a sort of period of slowness and just sort of emphasizing certain moments. Now we want the whole piece to sort of build up at the end. So it's a good idea, I think, to bring back this first, what would you call it? Melody, yeah, motif, I suppose. And I tried to play around with, as you can see, this section here. I tried to play around here with just like an interesting chord, is very dissonant sort of chord. Very, I do think it is quite Star Warsy, but it sounded really good on the piano, but I couldn't get it to sound good on anything else. And the problem was I hadn't used the piano in any of the orchestration yet. That none of the instruments were piano. The piano was simply a sketch just to guide me, and I didn't want to add it in as an actual instrument if it was never going to get used other than this one moment. So instead, I just revamped it and just had this whole section, instead of having a little break, was all arises. So I reintroduced the cello idea. As you can see, we've got the bouncy melody, or the bouncy sort of riff going on. Once again, it's come back. I've this time doubled it in the viola, so this was it says cello on this because I took it from, you know, the cello section and added it to the violas who are doing spiccato now. And then I just added all these instruments kind of to rise up. You see here, for the first time, I introduced the French horn right at the end, sustain. It's just building. You can see it's 1, 2, 3, this kind of stepping up on the notes. That's layered again with the trumpet, the tuba down here. As you can see, this is the mod wheel. So this is the dynamics being moved up. That is being mirrored in all of this section. Everything is just rising, just for that initial impact. And you see how right at the end here, it just ascends really quickly. That's just to finish off the scene, you know. So, you know, the way I kind of approached this was start with that piano sketch right up here. Start with this piano sketch. Move on to just building out one section. Just try that first section. Do your instruments work? Does it sound okay? You know, this is what we're really looking for. Just, can you get that initial, this does sound good, I'm heading in the right direction. Okay. Inevitably, you'll meet some issues later down the line. This whole section just wasn't working. Try some other ideas, but keep that instrumentation, because you know it is what you're looking for. You know it's hitting the emotion. You know it's hitting the story. It works in the world. And just keep going with that until you hit another problem. No, but you know, it just kept going with what felt right, and eventually we got to that point where it became about just fixing those little bits, making sure we were really hitting the moments of the scene, making sure we weren't obstructing anything really crucial, making sure the dialogue can be heard. making sure the sound effects can be heard, because the music was there to elevate. So, you know, with all of that having been said, I'd like to show you the rescored scene, and I hope you enjoy.
Sir, anywhere from Poe?
No. General, the Jakku village was wiped out.
I'm sorry, Your Highness. There was no sign of the map anywhere.
If they get to Luke first, we haven't got a chance. What about Poe?
They found his X-Wing destroyed. Blaster marks indicate it was the First Order.
There's no mention of BB-8.
He wasn't recovered.
Never underestimate a droid.
No, man.
General, should we contact the Republic?
You have to be smarter than that. Find BB-8 immediately. Our future may depend on it.
Yes, of course, General.
My, this is a catastrophe.